Hello. Hello, hello. Nothing. Do what? Hello, hello. Everybody to take off your shirt. I don't know about down there, but up here it is like super warm. Erik, why don't we turn the lights down just a little bit? I think that might help before we actually start. Now you can take your shirts off and nobody can see. Okay, so the first thing is my neighbor put this bowl out for somebody to take free. It isn't chipped or anything. And I'm going to put it down on the stage. I hope somebody wants it. Otherwise, I'll have to drive it to the thrift store. Yes. So I'm Lynn and Nino. I know most of you. I organize these things every month. And I know I've been doing it at least 5 years, maybe more.
2011?
Pardon me?
Since 2011?
Is that when it started?
Yeah.
Boy, do the math. It's a long time. So I want to tell you that organizing these shows is a little bit like that riddle, fox, goose, grain. And fox, goose, grain is where you have to get the three things over to the island in the rowboat without the fox eating the goose and without the goose eating the grain. I have no idea what the answer to this riddle is. But the reason I'm bringing it up is when I organize these, I think of a theme. Maybe it's art clubs in Tacoma, we'll say. So I have some clubs in mind, and I line up the first one, and often I don't even know the people, so I'm just coming out of nowhere saying, do you want to spend the next week putting together 50 images and talk about it? And maybe they say yes at first, so then I line up the second one, and then when I'm lining up the third one, the first person says, well, I can't do it after all. So then I go back to the drawing board, and sometimes I even have to change the theme because I can't get all three things I wanted. So I just wanted you to know that. Okay, so first up tonight is Blake LaRue, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. He grew up in Mount Vernon, Illinois. In high school, he found the arts and developed a passion for ceramics. In 2001, he went to St. Louis Community College and continued his study of the medium while getting an associate's degree. Next, he worked as a potter's apprentice at Ayers Pottery in Hannibal, Missouri. Afterwards, Blake attended Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, where he received a BFA in ceramics and art history in 2008. After working a variety of jobs not related to the arts, Blake happened upon a job working for Emil Frey and Associates in St. Louis in 2012. Here he worked as a field technician, removing, installing, and performing on-site repairs of old and new stained glass windows. In 2015, he moved to Seattle and began working for Seattle Stained Glass. During his time with SSG, Blake developed a deep understanding of the fabrication and restoration processes, as well as the business and management. In 2018, he founded Sacred View Studio, his own firm, which focuses on large-scale stained glass restoration and fabrication projects. In 2022, Blake was accepted into Washington State's public artist roster and has been seeking opportunities to do more original works. He attended a workshop at the Pilchuck School of Glass and was recently invited to teach a one-day class on stained glass. Blake.
Oops. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Lynn. As mentioned, I'm Blake LaRue. I'm honored to be here. I wasn't really sure what to talk about, so I decided just to share my story and see what we can glean from that. This is me at 24, living completely... Oh, that's not... What happened? Jumped ahead, sorry. Yeah. That's me at 24, living completely in the moment, off of school loans, solely focused on the study of clay, but too self-conscious to fully commit. I'm fascinated with the nature of clay and discovering its many forms. I fired most of my work in wood kilns. I experimented with combining materials such as this one, electroplating copper onto clay vessels, hand-built some strange topographic forms, all the while trying to find that elusive voice. After university, I dabbled with trying to make things happen in the arts, but mostly tended bar to make ends meet, and managed to do a few things I was proud of, such as making 500 mugs for a local coffee shop, creating another topographic piece that hung from the ceiling of a gallery show that a friend invited me to be in. Throughout this time, I was making the best of friends of a lifetime and had a series of encounters that would eventually shape the course of my life. The most impactful being the meeting of my partner, Shannon. Whoa, did I do that? We were getting ready for a prom-themed bicycle ride, so we had gone to Goodwill and gotten our outfits. On our third date, we went for a tour of Emile Fry and Associates stained glass studio in St. Louis. It's a fifth-generation family-owned studio, and I hit it off with Nicholas Fry. He's the guy there on the left. He's the great-great-grandson of its founder. More to that later. I was still trying to make a go of being an artist, and somehow managed to get an opportunity working for this very nice fellow, Patrick Doherty. I worked as his artist assistant to build these two stick structures on Washington University's campus in St. Louis, not to be confused with UW. Eventually, though, I was drowning in debt. Student debt, that is. Unmotivated to be creative, and found myself in this prison for 2.5 years. Pretending to be happy, I was a sales associate for a fire sprinkler device manufacturer, working in their corrosion remediation prevention division. By 32, I knew I wasn't going to be happy without working with my hands, and I needed something for my soul. So I quit my job with very little prospects and left the cubicle behind for good. Unbelievably, a week after I quit my job, Nicholas Fry called me and asked me if I wanted to help fabricate this 10-foot by 30-foot mosaic. It took two of us 6 months full-time labor, piece by piece, putting that together. After we completed this project, they offered me a position on the road crew. And this is the first job site I showed up to. Yeah, that's a 60-foot scaffold. I was never sure that I was afraid of heights until climbing up this contraption. It swayed with every pass of a sponge while cleaning these large, massive windows. I got to do some really amazing work with this company, like commuting to work on this 4-car ferry across the Missouri River, where we installed these amazing windows that had been restored after a fire. And I got to travel to strange lands, such as Floyd's Knob, Indiana, to install these modern windows original to the studio. I even got to put this prolific window in a hospital in my hometown. I called it a prolific window, but this is an original window to the studio. I honestly don't remember what the subject matter was about. But love came calling, so I purged all of my belongings except for what I could fit in and on top of my 1997 Volkswagen Golf to chase my lovely lady to Seattle, where she was working on her doctorate's degree as a nurse practitioner at UW. I managed to get a job at Seattle Stained Glass at a very strange time for the company. The owner was trying to sell the company, but was mostly absent. After a few months, I became the manager of the studio with 10 employees. I was totally unqualified and unprepared for this amount of responsibility. But I made the most of it and found quite a few amazing jobs to be a part of, like this is St. Joseph's Catholic Church in Seattle. We also got to do Town Hall in Seattle. After 3 years with Seattle Stained Glass, I was the most stressed out I'd ever felt in my life and needed a change again. So I started my own stained glass company, Sacred View Studio, out of this one-car garage in Wallingford, Seattle. It has been challenging and amazing, but I love working for myself, even though it's hard to find the balance when wearing so many hats. Things started a little slow, but I had some amazing opportunities to restore windows and also relocate them. This window came out of University Christian Church and was put into a different church in Seattle. This one's right around the corner. This is a before and after of Resurrection Church here. So there's before and after. Another relocation project was for these windows, which were commissioned by the Sander family in 1924. The same family hired me to remove the windows, restore them, and relocate them to Epiphany Parish in Seattle. So they were restored and put in the custom light boxes and installed on a brick wall. One of the most challenging projects I've encountered is also right around the corner here, is this dome for the First Church of Christ Scientists. This window is 65 feet off the ground and approximately 20 feet in diameter. And as you can see, it was in dire need of some attention. It was literally falling apart. There was like pieces of glass just about to fall out. It was incredible.
And where is that window?
That's the one, the dome, yeah. Many of the projects I encounter require a bit of reverse engineering, and this one was no exception. It took me a while to figure it out, but it appeared as though the window was installed before the silo skylight structure was put on top of it. Eventually, I got all of the panels out and into the studio and fully disassembled. So each tote here contains all the glass from an individual panel, which is then cleaned by hand with razor blades and steel wool and dish soap. I ended up splitting the panels in half so that they would be more manageable. So I went from 6 to 12 individual wedge-shaped panels. Each panel had to be built on a curve because you can't build it flat and then force it into a curve. All the glass was extremely dirty and needed cleaning and some repairs, but the results speak for themselves. Yeah, this is a teenage Jesus, something like that. It came from a painting where he was one of his, never mind, I'm going to butcher that, so I'm not going to say. When it came time to reinstall, I had to start by by reinforcing this crazy steel frame that held the glass and was secured by this wagon wheel wood structure above it. So when I got there, they had just basically baling wire that went from the steel frame to the wood frame. So I upgraded that with some airplane wire. But eventually I got it all back together. It took a lot of manipulating and head scratching, but eventually I got it back together. In addition to the stained glass, dome, I also replaced the skylight above. This was crazy as I was rappelling up and down that copper dome with 7-foot-long sheets of glass in one arm, all the while questioning how I keep finding myself in these positions. I'm afraid of heights. But as always, I managed to find my way to completion. And as it happens, I recently completed this job for another Christ Scientist church. This is in Burien. And just finished this job literally a week ago. This project was like all the rest, in which it's more complicated than I initially anticipate, but somehow find my way to get it done. This one in particular, I don't know if you can see here. So these were just like very narrow panels of amber glass with cedar trim on the outside. But when they installed it in the 50s, I don't know what they used, but I thought I was going to be able to cut around that with razor blades and pop the trim off. I ended up having to use oscillating saws and tools to cut the face of the trim off, and then, yeah, it just turned into a nightmare. But I got it done.
Did you make any money?
I did okay. Not as good as I should have, but I did okay.
You worked by yourself when you did that?
This project, I had help of 2 friends, but typically I work alone most of the time.
Are they still friends?
Yeah, we're doing all right. Though that last week working there was when it was 90 degrees on a roof, and it was a white roof, which you would think would be better, but the sun just like blasted you in the face the whole time. Okay, that's pretty. And I think that's it. So I'm still amazed at how a few encounters and decisions can lead you down a path of unpredictable works and rewards. My partner and I now have a 2.5-year-old son, Theo, 4-month-old twins, Felix and Silas, and I'm certain that they will be my most rewarding project. My hands have been blessed with rewarding me with my hands have blessed me with a rewarding life, and I'm so grateful to be helping to preserve the crafts, techniques, knowledge, and integrity of artisans who have long since gone. As I continue to work in preservation, I am also seeking opportunities to do original work as well. In the hopes of putting these random skills I've acquired over the years to good use. Stained glass is a seductive medium, and I'm hopeful that I can find ways to share it with a broader public outside of religious and spiritual settings. So that's it. That's me. Thank you.
Questions? Davis, can you speak really loudly?
Yes. I had a question, more of a personal nature. I'm a photographer, and earlier on in your presentation, there's a black and white image of you leaning over what appears to be a board. I think you said it was your first office in Wallingford or something. Wonder if you remember who took your photograph?
My neighbor. That was on my iPhone.
Oh, it was a good photograph.
Thank you.
Thought it might be your friend. That's it. Beautiful work, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Does glass get more fragile as it ages?
No. Yeah, there's this myth that glass settles. That's actually not the case, because typically, back in the day, they would blow big discs, and so towards the center of the disc, the glass would be thicker, and they would always put that on the bottom. And so when people came back 100 years later to fix that window, they're like, wow, look at how this glass has settled down, but that's an urban myth, I would say.
I have
Urban
a
legend.
question.
Yeah.
That form, I assume you built with a dome. What did you build that out of? How did you figure out what that slope should be?
So I had removed the steel bars that constructed the frame and basically created, I think I cut that shape out of a 2x6 and then just put real thin plywood on top of that.
Okay.
And back to the previous question, sorry, I guess to an extent it does get more fragile, just that the lead in stained glass windows tends to oxidize and corrode and disintegrate over time. So yeah, yes and no. is
And
the answer.
the colors are stable over?
Yeah, because all like hand painted glass is It's hand painted and with oxides that then get fused in a kiln, and it fuses to the surface of the glass so it doesn't scratch off or anything.
Yes.
I have two questions. One, how long did it take you to clean all the glass on the dome? And then two, are you responsible for covering all that up to protect the inside of the church, or do you work with a company to take care of that?
So that project took me, I believe it was 7 or 8 months from start to finish. And that was my, I typically try to only work on one job at a time, although as of late that hasn't really happened. But so solely focused on a job took about 7 months. And I basically removed the stained glass and left the skylight intact. And then when I got the stained glass done, I replaced the skylight glass and then brought the stained glass back. So essentially I didn't have to do any weather protection. And then to also answer your question, if I encounter things like asbestos, then I hire an abatement company to do the dirty work.
Mandy, did you have a question?
I was sort of curious, is the glass that you use when you restore, do you have to get special glass, or do you use glass supplier? I mean, if you're dealing with a modern piece and dealing with a restoration,
Yeah.
what's the difference in glass?
Yeah, I try my best to find good matches, and until recently it wasn't that hard, because we have companies like Kokomo Glass in Kokomo, Indiana. They've been in business for almost 200 years, I think. And then Wisma, we've got several American manufacturers that are still manufacturing this sort of cathedral glass. But for some reason in recent years I've been finding it more difficult, and it usually comes down to either matching color or texture. And typically it's, if I can match color, then I'm satisfied.
Any more questions?
Like on that last job, the burying job, you didn't understand how hard it would be to cut the panels out and pull them all out, so that they had to slow you down. How do you build in enough slop in the, I assume you give them a bid, how do you build that in so that you don't lose your shirt when you run into problems like?
At the in parentheses at the end of each bid, if I encounter things that I do not anticipate, I'm going to come back and ask for more money, essentially. So I had to issue a change order, which was accepted, thank goodness. But I did still leave a fair amount of money on the table there, I think, because it was 3 of us, and I don't remember exactly. It took us about 2 months total, and yeah, that one was one of the worst. Yeah, I was more stressed out by that job than I was the dome, and the dome was probably the most challenging, but. Just a lot of things that surprised me on that one.
So did you have to take that entire scene apart and then weather the building and then put it all together, or did you just take one panel at a time?
So I was originally hired to just replace a few broken panes here and there, but as we were having to use these oscillating tools to remove the trim, we would crack the adjacent piece. And so I think we originally were hired to replace maybe 30 panels, and in the end we replaced 120.
Wow.
Yeah.
AJ?
In that
Stand
picture,
up.
oh, sorry. In that picture of all the buckets with the glass and that when you were getting ready to clean, was it just you? Did you clean every single one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and it's pretty simple process. I mean, it's really fun, actually. Once you get in the groove, you kind of let your mind wander. Because I use flat blade X-Actos to get the putty off the edge, and then I come back with steel wool and just scrub them.
So are the pieces numbered and
Yeah.
put them back?
Yeah. I've had some jobs where I chose not to do that, which bit me in the end. And I should have known better, but yeah, typically you want to number every single piece so it's going back exactly where you got it from.
Elaine?
Did you have to use new lead came and solder everything yourself?
Yeah. That majority of my jobs, that's what happens. Typically, I pull windows out, completely disassemble them, clean all the glass, reconstruct it to the original dimensions, and then reinstall it. So that means I'm completely rebuilding it.
So is it, who makes this lead cane these days?
The lead I use is Cascade Metals, I think. They're up in BC. Mhm.
Do you worry about the fumes from the lead or any of that?
The biggest danger I encounter is when I'm disassembling old windows. And typically I do that underwater so that nothing becomes airborne. And I even built a homemade water filtration system so I can pour that dirty water through that filter. But I have, 3 kids at home, so yeah, I'm extremely paranoid when it comes to lead contamination.
Any more questions? Okay, thanks. These shows are recorded and Erik puts them on YouTube. And if you are not on the mailing list, there's a clipboard back there on the back table and you can put your email address down. And at the bottom of every invitation is the link to the Tripod Arts shows, I guess.
How long before they're put up on YouTube?
That's a good question. It usually takes about a week. Okay.
Unless they run into problems.
Unless he runs into.
Like last month.
Like last month, Google said, oh, we've never heard of you. We're not going to let you upload a video onto your own site. But eventually he did it. So Dick Weiss is next. He was born in Everett, Washington, to a German immigrant father and a mother who was the daughter of a Lutheran minister. There were 3 boys, Dick being the oldest. In those days, Yale and other colleges were selecting kids from towns like Everett to give them broader opportunities, and Dick, who was selected, graduated from Yale with honors. He became a stained glass artist in his late 20s and joined Traver Gallery, a top gallery in Seattle. A lot of you have probably been there. Where he has been represented for a little over 40 years. Since he first began working in glass in 1971, he has attempted to merge his interest in modern art with the classic power of this medium. When he executes windows, they are in exactly the same manner as they were created 600 years ago. His objective is to bring these long-lived techniques into the current century. He earns a living through commissions and gallery sales. Dick's work is in permanent collections at SeaTac Airport, the Tacoma Art Museum, the Museum of Glass, the Victoria and Albert Museum, London, England, Corning Museum of Glass, the collection of Dale Chihuly and Leslie Jackson, the Glass Museum in Frauenauer, Germany, I can't say that, Pilchuck Glass School, the John and Shirley Mary collection, and he lives in Seattle and often visits his cabin on the Olympic Peninsula right next to the ocean. Dick?
Yeah, a lot of you know, but Lynn's my partner, and I've been with her 11 years, and I'd have to say, first of all, I don't know how many of you guys read David Brooks or people like that, like in the New York Times, but he's always talking about community. And I'd have to say, you guys are an exemplification of community down here. That's part of the reason why Tacoma is still pretty special, particularly compared to Seattle, where I still live. And you moved here 3 years ago? 3 years ago, over there in South 40th. Up the hill there. Anyway, so half the time I'm with Lynn, in the north end here of Old Town, and half the time I'm up by the Troll and the Aurora Bridge in Fremont. But anyway, okay, here we go. And Erik, please turn the lights completely down. No light. I don't want a light. Yeah, lights off. Can you turn them off? There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, all right, so I don't know. Can you hear me okay? All right, okay, I'm giving you this a little bit. Lynn took some pictures. This is me outside my studio. And when you walk in the studio, this is where I tape up my designs on my easel. It's about, 6-7 feet by 7 feet, and there's about as big as windows I can make anymore. out of hand-blown glass on the left. There's another much smaller panels on the right, but that's my easel. And there's where stuff is stored. Unfortunately, for most artists, everything has value, so you end up drowning in stuff if you're not careful. I've spent a lot of time trying to come up with designs that seem okay to me, and a good way to get to put them together is in freestanding furniture, like screens. These are all some old screens, so I don't repeat my same trick again and again and again. And there's some racks with glass in them. I've been doing it since '71, so you know that's back in the heyday when all kinds of places were still operating. And so there I am in my studio, cutting glass and talking about stuff. There, getting ready to lead up. Puttying, putty, putty, putty. Make the biggest mess you can, and stiffens the window, waterproofs the window, and then clean it up so as if there's absolutely nothing messy about it. That's the theory anyway. And little teeny windows are lovely sometimes so that you can hang them like sun catchers. Those are hand-blown pieces of glass. I have a lot of friends that blow glass. I'll never blow glass. It's too hard, but they're very good at it. And so these are some hand-blown rondelles by friends of mine. And there's Jim, I think that's Jim Flanagan in the middle. He's the man who made all that beautiful pink glass right there in that I used. And when I go over to his place, I'll buy the broken up stuff because it's sort of pre-cut by God that way. And then you just put them in there and it becomes what I call a Mexican wall. And there's a show at the gallery just years ago. I'm going to just show you, I do come from more of an art background, so I was so impressed by Blake. His technical ability is unbelievable. I do the same thing for the last 50 years, you know, and so again and again and again, I can barely get them flat, you know, and that's it. And so this is where I've spent my energy is, I was into geometric art back, and we're all products of our time. In the 70s and the 60s, when I was looking at art a lot, geometry was big. I fell in love with geometry. I still like a black rectangle on a white field, you know, and so it kind of infused me. And when I moved into stained glass, which I truly will always love, I'm 50 years in, I still love the wing light. I mean, these windows right here in this little church are lovely right here. I mean, stained glass is magical, as Blake knows too. And so I just pull sheets out, and they're already rectangles. I was heavily into rectangles. So I like what I would call an unfinished look, a collage look, because to me, life is that way. You're finished when you're done, and you just never know what's going on. And there you go. Anyway, stack it up. And for a while, I did a lot of self-portraits and painted on glass and fired. Much messier look. So there's some. These are just throwing a few of these things in, and I did that for some years, and finally stopped doing that. And so, but see, you take all that stuff and you just jam it in again, and just put it over, build interesting frames about it. So this is, yeah. See, there's a piece of custom spectrum where they tried and they got a different thing going with that big white glob in the middle there. Sheet broke that way, so I used it that way. Just I used to do 3 or 4 panel screens. Now they're down to 2 panel screens. They still stand up just fine. Much easier to store. Anyway, so you can see my love is still of geometry. Figuration to me. It's still, these are figures. I mean, these ought to be like 2 figures to me. My friends blow the rondelles, and I will cut them up. And anyway, sometimes I collaborate with other people. This was an old friend of mine. I knew him when he was 18 years old, and he's Preston Singletary. He's part Tlingit, and so he's gotten into his native stuff. So we did some collaborative windows. That's Preston's design of a two-panel screen, but it's supposed to be like mountains. One's mountains and one's rivers. That was a mountains one. There's my living room. I try to live with one of my screens just so I can see how they look in an actual spot. First commission in '84 was marine sciences, and there's one of the panels. 6 feet tall. It's crazy tall. And then some high schools. This is somewhere in the Cheney Valley High School, referencing old, obviously medieval stuff. What is that? That's a high school, Edmonds Woodway High School. And unfortunately, see, this thing is the library. So these are all giant rondelles made by my friends. The problem was it abuts a major road, and so what happens is they found that they had to put bulletproof glass on the outside because kids would drive with a 22 or a BB gun and try to shoot the bullseye circles out of the windows. Anyway, a couple of senior center in Kent. So you stay in the same place and do the same thing forever, and people start to get to know you a little bit, even if you're just basically a slug in a basement. And so there it is. This is the McConnell Foundation in California. Glinty glass is so cool. It's drained of color, but it just glows like a son of a gun in the right light. This is a high school outside of Spokane, 40 feet tall. So you're using hand-blown clear glass, rondels, and bevels, and blue glass. It's supposed to be a victory thing a little bit. To me, school is what makes the difference of, school is what brought me to life. Here, just for the record, when you're up in front of a jury, schools pick you, and then you do what you think works. I saw the student entrance, and I wanted to have these wings of victory over what I thought of as the school entrance where the students come in. And there were 2 students on the jury, and one of them said to me, you know, when they showed, I did a drawing, and I said, you know, I have no trouble with the actual glass, but the problem is, to me, the negative image looks an awful lot like a penis. And I go, oh. And I said, well, okay, first of all, we know penises are bad, and so right away the principal thought that was pretty funny. But then I said, but on the other hand, I said, you know, you really won't notice that when you won't see the negative space. But I understand my drawing did make it look kind of that way. So, but no, it's not. Anyway, so much for winged victory. Anyway, it's another high school here. They were the Thunderbird was their image, and so I stylized the Thunderbird. And the problem is now that they have now moved away from the native thing, and now they're like the fighting jellyfish or something. And I still have this stylized Thunderbird over their interior court, and that's the wing of a Thunderbird up above. So. Federal Way High School, the last high school commission I did, which now is about 8 years ago. It was an end of the day thing. I'm, headed toward 80 years old. I have all this beautiful hand-blown glass had done over the last 50 years. So this was like the day where you just throw all this stuff in and hopefully have it look kind of pretty, like a confetti thing. And to honor the students, Federal Way is supposedly one of the most diverse high schools in the state of Washington. And so this window is called All Colors Are Beautiful because, they're so proud of the fact that they have all the skin colors you can imagine in there. And again, respect the students. The only reason I'm doing okay in life really is probably because of school. And so, and Lynn, but school, anyway. Installing that window you saw sitting there in the, on the easel upside on the side, there it is. Oops. My friends, the man who made those big rondelles died, and so you have a good memory of him when you use these. I understand that a lot of the stuff I do is made by people that will not be here forever, and so I try to honor the glass. There was a lot of wonderful West Coast glass that was made over the last 40 years. Most of it's gone now. And yet the glass, I can still pull sheets out from the 70s. And so to me, it's an honor to work with what all these people did, trying to come up with their vision. Oh, here it is. These are the latest windows. The Hilltop, we're going to talk, the Hilltop will be next. And so Kate Rhodes has this class where anybody can come. You'll know. Anyway, so I'm hired by Kate to put them together, and then somewhere at the Tacoma Library will get them and hang them up somewhere. So that's there it is with Kate's latest couple. SeaTac Airport, and the problem with giant commissions are, particularly in busy areas in America, is nothing stays still. Within 10 or 20 years, they either knock the building down or they build a kiosk in front of it, or it no longer is this, now it's that. And so they told me 13 years after I did this was the South End one. It was 22 feet tall at that point. They said, well, the good news is we're not going to throw the window away, but we're going to move the window, and we want you to add 13 feet to it. And I go, okay, all right, well, you know, and the only reason I got the bid to begin with was because the budget was so bad, all the real people don't apply. And so when I gave them the bid for the 13 feet added to these 22 feet, they blanched and said, okay, and they went to a commercial shop and they said, yeah, that's a reasonable bid. So yes, I originally lost my shirt, but what I did was, by the way, I'm not going to, you see, the top end is 11 feet on either. That's 22 feet up there. I'm not going to build bigger panels there. So what I did was, if it were you, I stretched your body out and added little things in the middle, which were a lot less to have to do. And so the window no longer goes straight up with that nice curve, but it actually looks better, I think. There it is now. See how I slimmed it out? So now it's 22 feet. They moved it to the north end of the main terminal. And there's the one that, again, homage to this area is a center for blown glass. There's some wonderful people. There's a lot of blown glass by wonderful people like Kathy Gray and Janusz Pozniak, Dante Marioni, Sonia Bloomdahl, Ben Moore, just all these wonderful glass blowers. And there they are. They stuck them right next to each other. Thank you. That's me. Thank you. You know, and I'm not joking. It's an honor to be part of this community. You guys are really an inspiration to me. You guys are great.
Questions? Mindy?
Can you define the word rondelle, which you use many times?
Rondelle is a classic medieval way. A lot of the beautiful churches, which is part of the why they're so gorgeous way back in the day, you dipped into a tank of molten glass, usually a color, and you pull it out and you blow what they call the mother bubble. You got a hollow tube, you blow a bubble. Everything starts with the mother bubble. And what happens is you pull it off the mother bubble, you now have a little hole because you've transferred it to what they call a punty, just a rod with no blowhole in it. And then you got a little vase, kind of tiny little vase with a little hole, like shaped like this, because it's still remember the mother bubble? And then you spin it like crazy, get it hot as heck, and it goes, and it's a flat glass. It becomes a rondelle. So if you ever see something like, if you watch Dale and those guys blow a 40-inch rondelle, it's just amazing to watch them come out of that final heat. Then they start spinning, and what looked like a closed vase, it just goes, whoosh. It's amazing. When glass blowers, 30 years of doing the same dang thing, they get good at it. It's so hard to do.
So I have the microphone now, so I have a question. The rondelles in the airport installation?
Yeah.
Who blew those? Were they
Again,
a collection?
The people I was saying there, the friends of mine, this is what happens when you just don't ever leave and you stay here and everybody comes. And so everything is timing. I was a hippie when I came back from school. I worked on the railroad. I wanted to make a stained glass window. I was a hippie in the late 60s, early 70s. I made a window, I made another window, I made another window, and then Dale Chihuly started Pilchuck in 71. And so all my buddies, my friends, came out here within the next 10 years. And about the time I was going to poop out, because I don't do well without my friends. I will follow my friends anywhere. But by myself, again, I'm a little scaredy cat. And so I was going to give up, and I met Rob Adamson at the Glass Eye, and he introduced me to this core group of glass artists that are doing wacky stuff, and they like my wacky stuff, and it was like I found my tribe. And so, and so then you get a gallery representation, and people think you're real. Yeah, that's about it.
Any other questions?
Timing. Yep, so quite different than Blake, but his is amazing. Yeah.
What does it say at the bottom of your door?
Oh, saving a campsite for someone else is prohibited. Dick Marquis, see, another good friend. Dick is a wonderful glass artist. He had a place, he bought all the signs he ever could from old state parks and everything, and so he recently got rid of a lot of signs, so I have some hilarious signs. This one's pretty good. And we're not saving any campsites. Anyway, and by the way, Claudia and John helped paint my studio. This was pre-Barbie, but these colors turned out Barbie-like, and I love it. I love it.
Dick, could you tell that story about the poster made by the airport that you took home?
You know, again, remember what I said? The only reason I got those 2 big jobs at the airport was because no one would bid on it, because the bids were so bad that nobody nationwide would do it. But local hippie, old hippie like me did, and signed up for it. And so the port loved the windows, and the woman who ran the port at that time, who, by the way, then moved to the port of Tacoma, she was a wonderful person. She said, we love those windows, we can't pay any more, the budget was set, but we'll make a nice poster for you. And I go, okay, great. And so they made a nice poster for me that, you know, had this picture of that blue window. And Mom and Dad were still alive in Everett, and, you know, this is 89 now. And so I go up, Mom sits in her rocking chair there, and the first window, the blue triangle thing, that I think of, by the way, is like flight. It's balanced on 1/zillionth of a foot and gets off the ground. It's like, oh my God, we can do that. Anyway, so, and we still have war and everything, and so, okay, I come there and I have the poster. Mom and Dad have not seen the window. It was just installed, and I said, what do you think, Mom? Look at this window. I even named it for Mom. She died the next year, but it was for AW. That's for Ann Weiss, my mom. Anyway, so I said, what do you think, Mom? She said, oh, son, that's wonderful. And my dad, remember, born in Germany and worked in the mills, old German dude, very cool, but in his own way. Anyway, Dad's sitting next to her on the sofa, and I'd say, what do you think, Dad? He goes, nice you got the hobby. He's right. As Blake said, earning a living, you need a backup plan. Hey, nice you got the hobby. Anyway, thank you guys for showing.
So next month's tripod is August 16th. And Lucia Harrison is doing a show of Puget Sound book artists. And a woman named Ashley is doing a show on the fairly new Art Co. Art Gallery. And she'll talk about what they're showing there. We don't have a lot of galleries in Tacoma, so we really want to encourage that. And the third leg of that three-way show isn't finished yet, so stay tuned. Sign up on that email list if you're not on it already. So our last presenter is Katie Evans. She's a Tacoma area advocate and nonprofit executive guided by inclusion, curiosity, and compassion. Katie joined the Hilltop Artists team as the deputy director in October 2019 and has loved every minute. It's a dream come true to work with such an inspiring group of artist leaders and youth. A successful fundraiser and communication executive, writer, strategist, Katie has supported Northwest-based nonprofits and agencies for over 20 years. Before her role at Hilltop, she was the Assistant Executive Director for Engagement and Education at the Grand Cinema, who knew, where she built coalitions in order to cultivate a love of independent film and to support creators and storytellers. A Tacoma resident since 1998, Katie is an Evergreen State College alum and built her experience at Metro Parks Tacoma, Point Defiance, and the University of Puget Sound, Reid, To Me, and the Museum of Glass. Katie's efforts include completing hundreds of successful fundraising projects, writing and publishing articles highlighting Tacoma culture, and organizing events that bring advocates together to celebrate Tacoma's creative civic landscape. Katie lives with her partner and 2 cats and loves backpacking, traveling, cooking, puzzling, tarot, watching films, and singing. Katie?
Okay, hi everybody. Let's see, maybe a little bit of readjusting for the shorty. Okay, can you hear me okay? Awesome. Well, I'll do a little bit of housekeeping first. Do not ask me any tough questions about how glass blowing works, because I don't know. But I can find the answer for you. I've also brought a bunch of fun collateral. We have some events coming up and little postcards. Our block party is right around the corner on August 6th. Our students will be in residence at the Museum of Glass, July 31st through August 4th. I got all sorts of fun stuff over there, even some stickers and some brochures, so help yourself. Okay, so I'm the deputy director at Hilltop Artists. I do these kinds of presentations about Hilltop sometimes, but I think as many of us have experienced, the pandemic made a lot of these kinds of things different and challenging. So I'm a little rusty, so we're gonna do this. And Kim is our executive director, and she's the pro, but I thought about it in the 2 days that I had to prepare. And I thought, I'm really going to come to this as the fan of Hilltop Artists that I am. I have admired Hilltop ever since I heard about it, and I think I first heard about it when I started working at the Museum of Glass. And I learned what an incredible impact it had had in the community. Hilltop Artists is turning 30 this summer. It's happening right now. And so I had always admired it. Every other organization I've ever worked for that works with youth is like, we have to figure out how to do it just like Hilltop Artists. And I was like, yeah, we do. How did they do it? We're gonna explore that a little bit today. Like, how did Hilltop Artists do what they do? So I'm really just gonna move from my place of fandom and love. We're gonna explore a lot of really amazing pictures of kids doing stuff that doesn't make sense why kids should be doing that. And I'm going to introduce you to a whole bunch of artist leaders that I had included in my intro. Okay, so I know some of these people, not all of the people. So we're going to start off with the beginning. This is in the early 90s when Hilltop Artists was established. In 1994, groups of community groups had come together really to address the very serious violence that was happening throughout the Hilltop neighborhood. And within that coalition, everyone started reaching out to their networks, like, who do you know, what can we do? And it really was like everyone came together to find ways to help keep our kids safe, and that's still what we're doing at Hilltop Artists. One of those folks that this community coalition reached out to was Dale Chihuly and his really close friend, Kathy Kaparick. Kathy ran a gallery downtown and represented Dale, and so they were like, okay, let's see what we can do. Dale had friends at the school board, hit up some of his friends. They basically were like, well, there's an empty metal shop at Jason Lee, now it's Hilltop Heritage Middle School. You guys do whatever you want to do. So Dale called a bunch of his friends, and they came, and so originally the name was Hilltop Artists in Residence. So quite famous artists would come down to Tacoma and just hang out with the kids and teach them some stuff. And from that summer, we have grown to 2 different locations. We work with 600 kids a day, or not a day, a year. We work with like 150 kids a day. We run daytime elective programs in Hilltop Heritage Middle School and Silas High School, and we also run after-school programs and summer programs. All of our programs are free. So let's meet a bunch of people. This is Dante Scott, one of our first Hilltop Artist students. He is still connected with some of our alumni, and so we do have He's doing pretty good as far as we know. Let's see, am I doing it wrong?
Point it at the screen.
Oh, okay, that's the end. There we go. I love this picture because we've got two brothers on the end here. That's Tony Sorgenfree and his brother Jesse. Tony, probably 15, 16 there. He's now our hot shop studio manager at Silas High School, and it was pretty funny joining the Hilltop team. Everyone is pretty much younger than me, and they've all been working at Hilltop for like many decades. So Tony hit his 20th anniversary with Hilltop. This is Jason McDonald and one of our longtime instructors, Greg. Jason McDonald is, he's been on Blown Away, so you might recognize him if you've ever watched Blown Away. And he's really making a go as a working artist right now, and it's really exciting to watch him get going. Oops. That's Jason now, and this is one of our recent alumni, Maishan. They're working together on a commissions project for Salon Knowles, so pretty cool. This is we're kind of going back and forth, kind of looking generationally, experiencing then and now and kind of what's going on. You can see Chihuly there in the middle. We've got Trenton Kiocho over on the side, also been on Blown Away. That's Samantha Scalise next to him and Jessica Hogan right next to her. Those three are alumni of the program. Jessica is now our program director. Sam is a teaching artist for our daytime classes at Hilltop Heritage. And Trenton was our production manager, and he's really making a go for it as an artist right now, too. So this is little baby Sam, little baby Trenton, and then this is Sam's dad. And then, I don't know why I'm bad at this. This is Sam now, and one of our current students, Lily, at one of our recent events. This is little baby Douglas Burgess, and at the time, this is Jason Maurer. He's looking pretty young there, too. This is when Doug first started in the program. He is also now one of our instructors at daytime. He just completed his first year working with kids in middle school, and you know, he did an amazing job. So that's Doug now, working with some of our alumni artists. And then there at the bottom, there's Doug and Jason now, all grown up. I'm going to take you through a little bit of the pandemic journey, because that was really my experience with Hilltop. This is a picture of us at the Governor's Mansion. In 2020, Hilltop Artists won the Washington State Nonprofit of the Year Award. We were very excited. It was February of 2020. So we were like, oh my gosh, this is so great. We're going to go out and meet everybody and have all this fun time. And then we did not. This is one of our artist links. We were able to get back into our hot shop classrooms and begin working with our alumni. And we kicked that off basically as soon as we were able to gather in spaces again. And our alumni were around with very little to do. And so this was the beginning of a new program for us where we re-engage our alumni. They come back. They work as part of our advanced production team. And so they were able to come back and work with us in the hot shop masked up, following all the procedures right away. We also did art kits. This is Chase. We were delivering all sorts of arts to our kids right away. We were doing a lot of glass blowing and context, talking to them about like why Tacoma, who's Dale Chihuly, and then they were painting skateboards and stuff. This is Ellie, another one of our alums, working in the hot shop during the pandemic. We had to do our big fundraising event online for the first time. So this is Tony and one of our other now alumni, Jack, working at Silas High School, creating the centerpieces that we auction off every year. Those were the centerpieces. Pretty cool. Very highly collectible. We only make about 55 a year, so you gotta catch them all. As the pandemic progressed, we were able to do a bunch of really fun stuff with some of our partners. This is our team at the Museum of Glass. Our students are the featured artists at the Third Thursdays at the Museum of Glass throughout the school year. So if you go to the Museum of Glass on Third Thursday and you're like, why are there a bunch of children down there blowing glass? It's because they're Hilltop artists. So they made this incredible giant snow globe that it took them I think 4 tries over the course of many days to complete, and it's quite a masterpiece. It's adorable. So, and it was really scary to watch. These are the kids during the, I think this is 2021. This is our production team back in the game and all masked up. This is one of the many forms of glassmaking that we teach. These are kids working on torches. This is flame working, or sometimes lamp working, it's called. And then this I just love. It says, "Thank you for having a creative space for our students. It's a great safe space to enjoy school. Thanks for being here for us." And this is from our leadership team at Hilltop Heritage. So that was really, that's the key to Hilltop. It's this each one teach one, this generational mentorship, and we're also just always there, and that's huge. They know where to find us. We run programs all day, every day. And the people that you have started to build that trust and connection with are really, truly there for you. This is our after-school team now. Just a bunch of amazing kids having a great time. We have pretty amazing, scary Halloween parties. There's a few things that, okay, I'll tell you. Don't tell anyone this happens. They all get to carve pumpkins, and they pour hot glass in them. It's very fun. And then we take the carved pumpkin carcasses and throw them in the empty furnace, and all the children say, "Sacrifice." So we don't put that one on our Instagram, but boy, they really enjoy it. We've really been picking up speed. The vision for Hilltop Artists is to continue to grow. Our goal is to open a 3rd hot shop in partnership with an unnamed community college. So this is from the recent Glass Art Society conference, which was held in Tacoma in 2023 or 2. This is one of our students who's now, still a student, not an alumni yet. And then this is one of our friend artists from a similar organization to ours in Chicago called Firebird. We had a big party. It was really fun. During the same time, Trenton Kyocho and Kimberly, our executive director, worked together to curate a show called Gather at Hilltop Artists. There they are. It was just magical, like dynamic, fun, weird, all sorts of cool stuff. You can see some of the neon work from another one of our artists and instructors, Danny. And then this is Pilchuck, for those of you who might recognize it. Our students get to go to Pilchuck every year, and we also award additional scholarships so students can go to the longer, each session is a little over a week long. So they basically get to go and play in the woods and learn some really amazing skills with a bunch of other artists, and it's quite awesome. This is one of the groups. One of the partners that we work with, really a new partner called Crafting the Future. They fund scholarship programs for BIPOC artists. And so this was a gathering of Black artists at Pilchuck. Very exciting that we were able to send so many kids up to that. This is some of our kids. That's Roberto down in the corner. He's our outreach services manager. Another one of the secret ingredients for Hilltop Artists is wraparound services. So that can mean anything. It can be food, clothes, it could be counseling services. Sometimes it's kids need glasses and they just didn't know. Roberto works with our school counselors and with other community organizations to bring those resources to our students when they need it. This is our production team at Pilchuck last year. This is Courtney working with another one of our instructors, Danny. They are installing this. So neon is getting quite a bit more popular, and it's also an amazing skill to have. So a lot of our students are getting quite enamored with neon, and we're trying to figure out other ways that we can incorporate that into the program. One of our students made this very cool neon pumpkin. That's Mackenzie. This is Emily, one of our alumni. She is at another one of our amazing partners, Chihuly Garden and Glass, doing a flame working demo. This is one of our current students down at the Museum of Glass. This is Sean. He also was one of our student speakers at one of our luncheons, holding one of the centerpieces from 2 years ago, which looked like that. Got to show some art in there, too. some of our wonderful supporters. You might recognize some of them from your local city council. Every year when we do our big luncheons in October, we always feature 2 student speakers. So this is Eddie. We themed our luncheon last year around pride. We have many, many queer identifying and non-binary students, and we put the spotlight on them, and it just made you cry the whole time from joy. There's Sam again with my Sean. We give out awards every year, one named after Greg Owen, who is an incredible artist and a huge supporter of Hilltop Artists, who recently passed away, and one for Greg Perrohe, who is our longtime instructor. And so those were our 2 award winners last year. There's a big old group of happy kids and grown-ups and instructors being cute. Those were our centerpieces last year, and that's Reagan and Eddie and Lily. There's one of our board members, Jen, getting into the action. She is stamping a monkey shine. This was a beautiful mosaic designed by Noah Struthers, who now works on our team. And then the students and anybody who was in the classroom at the time could help put in all of the little glass pieces. And so this is where Hilltop Artists is now. Like, we have an incredible multi-generational group of mentors and artists doing inspiring stuff that our kids get obsessed about and that I am obsessed about too. And we have also been doing some residencies. This is Aide Jean-Baptiste. She and Zane is a current instructor, both went to Alfred University. And so we were able to invite a day in. She came in and did a residency for a week at Hilltop Artists, and that's a new program for us, also very fun. And then here are just some of our kids doing more cool stuff. This is Kale. She's getting super good blowing glass by herself. This was a pandemic resource that was developed, a tool so that people could actually blow without swapping spit on blow pipes. It's our student Sky, also at MOG. And now we're just going to end with a bunch of smiles. There's Aiden. There's Luis and Zane and Stina at one of our sales. There's our volunteer Lori and one of our kids, Hades. And then that's Connor and Karina. And that's Eddie and Damien. So yeah, that's what we're up to.
Questions?
I'm just curious, you said you've got a production team.
Yeah.
In doing production, are they working primarily on centerpieces to be sold for sales events, or do you all ever take on commissions from other
Yes.
people or anything like that?
Yes, and. So we host 2 big glass sales. Thank you. We host 2 big glass sales a year, one in the spring and one in December. And so they're always creating products for those. I think I see a few customers in the room, so you might have heard of those. They create the centerpieces, and we do also accept commissions. And so if you're looking for someone to make some glass for you, we might be able to do it. And our commissions, our production program works like a scholarship-based apprenticeship. So once you apply to be on production, you are then awarded a scholarship based on, not on your work that you're doing on the floor, but engaging in academics, being a good team player, and picking and like really becoming part of the program. So we pay our production students.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I see a lot of kids running around with very dangerous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, I'm assuming there's all kinds of programs and protections to put in to train these kids?
Yep. It's the majority of what is going on is a huge amount of safety training that has started to be reinforced when they join the program when they're 12. So it's funny, we just got new insurance coverage. We have never had a claim, knock on some wood somewhere. And so I had to present them with all of our safety documents, and they were like, oh. And they were coming back asking questions like, why aren't they wearing gloves? And one of the things that I compare it to is cooking. Like, you really have to build a relationship with the heat in order to keep yourself safe. So if you're wearing protective gloves, you're not going to know where on the pipe it's already hot. And we have things like pipe coolers. So the beginning of any interaction with Hilltop Artists is hugely safety structured with consequences. And if you cannot respect each other and take care of yourself, you can't be in the program.
That's good.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Anybody else?
What percentage of the stuff is blown glass versus all the other ways you can handle glass?
You know, the blown glass tends to be the most popular, but more and more the flame working, and because you can put a torch system together for yourself. And so we do have some kids who have become very passionate about smaller scale work, and we have kids who are getting quite good at fusion too. The fusion had been kind of not as popular, and then the pandemic hit, and I think really because it can be also a very contemplative experience. Same with torch work. I think that has been, a lot of folks have been drawn to that as like comfort and giving yourself kind of a serene place. So I think glass blowing is still the majority, but all the other areas are growing.
How about the neon?
Yeah, so we don't have a full neon setup yet, and it's on our list of equipment. So we were able to contract with a teaching artist who had their own kit. So she has done one summer program for us, and then we're trying to find ways that we can make it happen more regularly. But yeah, it's very cool.
About your spring and winter sales, where are they announced?
So they're always on the same day of the year. So it's the first Saturday in May and the first Saturday in December. And we host them at Hilltop Heritage Middle School in what I call the gallery gym.
Anybody else? Do I hear a second?
Can I go back to the neon? That's interesting because, I mean, do they start with a long tube, and then they begin to learn to form it without collapsing it and that kind of stuff? And
Yeah, and our kids also learn how to make the tubes themselves. And some of our artists do the entire process.
make the tube?
Mm-hmm. I can't explain to you how they do that, but it is a thing that some of our artists know how to do. So, and one of the things that I had learned recently, all true neon is handmade. I did not know that. And because it's a very complex way of bending and shaping and forming things. So yeah, the setup at Pilchuck Glass School is amazing for neon. They have an incredible shop, so our kids get really excited when they get to go up there. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of chemistry involved, yes. One of our alumni, Jacob Wilcox, is an incredible neon artist, and he'll start going, and like he's just all over the periodic table of elements, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening anymore, but this is so cool.
Is everybody as happy as you?
Well, okay, here's the other secret. I do not have to spend my entire workday face-to-face with kids dealing with them all day. So I get to see all the joy, and some kids know my name. I know most of the kids' names, but I do not have to be. I'm not a disciplinarian. I don't have to do any of that. So our teaching artists, teachers, it's one of the hardest jobs in the world. But when you see that click in, because our daytime electives, those kids most of them don't choose glass blowing, and so they treat it like, oh God, I gotta go to glass blowing. And you're like, no one gets to do this. You guys know that, right? No 12-year-olds just get to go blow glass in their local middle school. So, and then you'll just see after, like heads down or staring at their phone for the first few weeks, all of a sudden something clicks, and they'll like start to get a little brave, and they'll go out on the floor, and they'll start working with their friends. And it is truly transformational, very magical.
One last question. Thanks, Katie.
Yeah. Can you pick up the collateral?
So thanks for coming out tonight. We'll see you August 16th. Yes, Reid? Yeah. Let me give you the microphone.
Hi, I'm Reid Ozaki. Some of you, I don't know, may have seen the presentation that I did about the Tacoma Pottery Salon.
Turn that microphone up and use the other one or something?
Yeah, so the Tacoma Pottery Salon has been going now for, this is our third year. And we invite established ceramic artists to present their careers to a lot of the new artists that aren't able to get the kind of background that a lot of us have. Anyhow, on August 1st, we're having a cup sale. And we've got donations from our participants and our speakers. And so I think we are looking to have maybe, if everyone comes through, we'll have 200 or so mugs, cups, bowls. And in addition to that, we have donations from our speakers that we're going to put on online on Etsy. There'll be an auction, an online auction of this work. And so these are names that, well, there's a few well-known ceramic artists. Patty Warshino was one of our speakers, and she's donated a cup. And some of our members have donated kind of collectible items. So I wasn't prepared to do this tonight, so I don't have the details. But if you go to tacomapotterysalon.org, we have a terrific team of folks that are doing the promotion. I think we're going to start really heavily promoting this the week on the Monday before the sale, so the end of July.
Reid,
Yeah.
let's do this. If you send me that information.
Okay.
Do I have your permission to forward you their ad for this?
Thank you. So, yeah, that would be.
One more thing. Luckily, Reid came up to talk because I just remembered tomorrow is Porch Fest. And I don't know, John, I know you're participating in Porch Fest. I can't really see you. Can you tell people how they can find out where this happens or what time? Porch Fest is musicians on porches throughout the 6th Avenue neighborhood area. What else, John?
Yeah, I think it's like a couple hundred bands are going to be playing over about 300?
No.
We have 3 bands that are going to be playing at our house, starting around 1, right? And going until 6. The neighborhood is south of 6th to Sprague on the east, and is it all the way to Union? No, it's like Pine, I think.
I think you get a map
Pine.
on the other Facebook.
Anyway, if you look online
Yeah.
on Porch Fest Tacoma, you'll find a map showing where all the bands are at. They actually, the map's a little wrong on our house. They picked our next door neighbor to save it.
So this event is free.
Yes,
And
it's free, and
it's fun.
it's fun. Last year, our neighborhood was, just packed with people roaming from house to house, watching. It was really a wonderful day, and so.
Yeah.
Beth, stand up and yell.
Also, it's not all music, it's mostly music, but there's also a comedy porch, so I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, a comedy porch as well. So go on to porchfesttacoma.com.
And I think there's going to be a marching band. At the Reid, yeah, so it's going to be.
Parade and a fire-breathing dragon.
That's right. With a fire.
Yes.
much is the tree?
Someone asked Reid, where is the cup sale gonna be?
If you're on my mailing list, I will forward you Reid's information about the cup sale. And I'll do it as soon as he sends the information to me.
Great.
Okay, thank you.